Good morning, everyone. Have you ever felt the painful realization that someone you deeply care about no longer feels the same way? That sinking feeling when their messages become shorter, their laughter fades, and their presence feels distant? Love doesn't just vanish in a single moment. It fades like a sunset, gradually darkening before you even notice. Today I want to share something that could change your perspective on relationships forever. When someone loses their love for you, they will do two things first. These actions are not just random behavior shifts. They are clear warning signs that their heart is moving away. Love is often seen as something magical, an unexplainable force that brings two people together and makes them feel as if they are the center of each other's universe. But what many people fail to realize is that love, no matter how strong it once was, does not vanish in a single moment. It doesn't disappear overnight like a switch being flipped off. Instead, it fades gradually, slipping away in ways that are almost unnoticeable until one day feels like it's completely gone. When someone loses their love for you, it rarely happens without warning signs. The issue is that most people are too caught up in their emotions to recognize these subtle changes. They brush off small shifts in behavior, telling themselves that maybe their partner is just having a bad day, or maybe work is stressing them out. They ignore the way conversations become shorter, how the warmth in their partner's voice starts to dull, or how physical affection becomes less frequent. Love, when it begins to fade, does so quietly. And that is exactly why so many people are blindsided when they suddenly realize they are no longer wanted the way they once were. At the start of any relationship, everything feels effortless. The messages are frequent, the calls are filled with laughter, and the desire to be near each other is undeniable. Love in its early stages is filled with excitement, anticipation, and deep emotional connection. Every conversation feels like an adventure, and even the simplest gestures, like a goodnight text or an unexpected compliment, can mean the world. But as time passes, this passion can sometimes dwindle. Not because love is meant to fade, but because emotions shift based on how two people nurture or neglect their bond. When love starts to fade, it happens in layers. First, there is emotional distance. The connection that once felt so natural begins to feel strained. Conversations that used to be filled with curiosity and excitement become mundane or forced. The things that once made your partner's eyes light up no longer seem to interest them. You start to feel like something is missing, but you can't quite put your finger on it. And then before you even realize it, the second layer kicks in: avoidance. When someone begins losing love for you, they start to withdraw, both physically and emotionally. They may stop initiating plans, start making excuses for why they can't spend time together, or even become less affectionate. It's important to understand that love doesn't break apart overnight. People do not wake up one morning and suddenly decide they no longer care. Instead, they start feeling differently, and this change in feeling leads to a change in behavior. It could start with a missed call they don't bother to return, or a text message left on read for hours, even when they used to respond in minutes. These small shifts may seem insignificant at first, but when they begin to pile up, they create a distance that becomes difficult to bridge. Many people in relationships try to justify or ignore these signs because they don't want to believe that love is slipping away. They tell themselves that their partner is just busy, that stress is causing them to act differently, or that things will go back to normal soon. But the truth is, love that is not actively nurtured will always start to fade. It requires effort, communication, and emotional investment from both sides. And when one person stops putting in that effort, the connection begins to weaken. Another reason why people fail to see love fading is because of hope. They hope that if they try harder, their partner will notice. That if they give more, they will receive more in return. That if they just hold on a little longer, things will go back to the way they used to be. But love doesn't work that way. It's not about how much effort you put in alone. It's about how both people contribute to the relationship. If only one person is fighting to keep the connection alive, it's already slipping away. Recognizing that love doesn't disappear overnight is painful, but it's also powerful. It gives you the ability to step back and truly evaluate what is happening in your relationship. Are they pulling away because they are going through something personal, or is it because their feelings have changed? Are you the only one trying to maintain the connection while they continue to withdraw? When you start asking these questions and observing their behavior closely, you'll begin to see the truth for what it is. Understanding that love fades in stages allows you to be prepared. Instead of being caught off guard when things suddenly fall apart, you'll recognize the warning signs early. You'll know when to communicate, when to fight for the relationship, and most importantly, when to walk away if you realize you're the only one still holding on. Love is beautiful, but it's also fragile. It needs to be nurtured and protected, or else it will slowly fade away. The key is to be aware, because the sooner you recognize the signs, the sooner you can decide what's best for your heart. When someone begins to lose their love for you, it doesn't happen suddenly or without warning. It happens in small, subtle ways that at first might seem insignificant. But when you look closely, you will realize that two major actions always take place first. These actions serve as clear signs that their heart is no longer as invested as it once was. The problem is that many people fail to notice them until it's too late. They brush off the discomfort, make excuses, and tell themselves that everything is fine until one day they realize they are no longer a priority in their partner's life. The first major thing they do is withdraw emotionally. This can be one of the hardest things to recognize because emotional distance does not always come with loud arguments or obvious conflicts. Sometimes the person still smiles at you, still shares the same space with you, and still goes through the daily motions of the relationship, but something feels off. They are no longer as present in conversations. They don't open up about their thoughts the way they used to, and they seem distant even when they're right next to you. This emotional withdrawal often begins with a change in communication. If you used to talk about everything, your dreams, your struggles, your daily experiences, but now your conversations have become shallow and forced, this is a red flag. When love is strong, people naturally want to connect. They want to know how their partner is feeling, what they're thinking, and what's going on in their life. But when someone starts losing feelings, they stop making that effort. They become indifferent. The deep conversations that once brought you closer now feel like a chore to them. You might find yourself always being the one to initiate meaningful discussions while they respond with short, uninterested answers. Another way emotional withdrawal shows up is through a lack of empathy. When someone loves you deeply, they care about how you feel. If you're upset, they want to know why. If you're struggling, they want to help. But when that love starts to fade, their concern for your emotions starts to fade as well. You might notice that they no longer ask how your day was, or if they do, they don't really listen to the answer. They might stop comforting you when you're upset, or worse, make you feel like you're being dramatic for expressing your emotions. This can be especially painful because it makes you feel alone even when you're still in the relationship. The second major thing they do is create distance, both physically and emotionally. In the early stages of love, people naturally crave closeness. They want to spend time together, share experiences, and be near each other. But when feelings begin to fade, this desire for closeness starts to disappear. You'll notice that they stop making an effort to spend quality time with you. They might start making excuses for why they're too busy to see you, or they might cancel plans more frequently. Even when they are around, they might seem distracted, glued to their phone, or uninterested in engaging with you. Physical affection is another major area where this distance becomes clear. If they used to be affectionate, holding your hand, hugging you, kissing you, or simply sitting close to you, but now those small gestures have become rare, it's a strong sign that their feelings are changing. Physical touch is often a reflection of emotional connection. When love is strong, physical closeness feels natural and comforting. But when love starts to fade, even simple acts of affection can feel forced or unnatural to the person who is pulling away. Another sign of this distance is a shift in priorities. When someone loves you, they make time for you. No matter how busy they are, they find ways to include you in their life. But when they start losing feelings, you begin to notice that everything else seems to come first. Work, friends, hobbies, even social media. Everything gets more attention than you do. You might feel like you're constantly waiting for them to have time for you rather than being someone they actively want to spend time with. This shift can be incredibly painful because it makes you feel unwanted. You start questioning yourself, wondering if you did something wrong, if you're not interesting enough, or if you're simply not good enough anymore. But the truth is, when someone starts pulling away, it's rarely because of something you did. It's because their feelings have changed and they don't know how to tell you. One of the most dangerous things about these two behaviors, emotional withdrawal and physical distance, is that they often leave the other person feeling confused and insecure. When someone stops loving you, they don't always say it directly. Instead, they let their actions speak for them. But because they haven't explicitly said anything, you start to doubt your own feelings. You convince yourself that maybe you're overthinking, maybe they're just stressed, maybe things will go back to normal soon. This uncertainty keeps you holding on, hoping that if you just try a little harder, they will come back to you. The reality is, once these two actions start happening, the relationship is already on unstable ground. It doesn't necessarily mean it's over, but it does mean that something needs to change. If you recognize these signs early, you have a chance to address them. Whether that means having an open and honest conversation with your partner or deciding to walk away before you invest more of your heart into something that is no longer being nurtured. Love is not just about saying the right words, it's about consistent actions that show care, commitment, and emotional presence. When someone begins to lose love for you, they may not tell you with words, but they will always show you through their behavior. The question is, will you notice it before it's too late? Recognizing the early signs that someone is losing love for you is not just about avoiding heartbreak. It's about protecting your emotional well-being. Too often people ignore the warning signs, hoping that things will magically return to how they once were. They cling to memories of the past, believing that if they just try a little harder, if they just give a little more, they can reignite the passion that is slipping away. But the truth is, love is not something you can force. It is either nurtured or it fades. And ignoring the signs only prolongs the inevitable. When love starts to fade, the person on the receiving end of that change often finds themselves confused, anxious, and full of self-doubt. They wonder if they did something wrong. They replay past conversations in their head, searching for the moment when things started to shift. They ask themselves questions like, did I say something to upset them? Have I not been enough? Am I the reason they're pulling away? This constant questioning is exhausting, and it slowly chips away at a person's confidence and self-worth. Understanding why recognizing these signs matters is crucial because it allows you to make informed decisions about your relationship. It puts you in a position of awareness rather than helplessness. When you notice the emotional withdrawal, the lack of affection, and the growing distance, you have a choice. You can either address the issue directly or prepare yourself to move forward without them. The worst thing you can do is pretend nothing is happening, because that only leads to deeper pain. One of the most painful aspects of a fading relationship is the emotional limbo it creates. When someone is losing love for you but hasn't fully left, it can feel like you're trapped in an invisible battle, constantly trying to prove your worth, fighting for their attention and hoping that things will go back to how they once were. But in reality, the more you chase someone who is already pulling away, the more they will distance themselves. Love should not feel like a one-sided effort. It should not make you feel like you are constantly trying to convince someone to care about you the way they once did. Another reason why recognizing these signs is so important is because it prevents you from internalizing their behavior as a reflection of your own worth. When someone stops loving you, it does not mean you are unworthy of love. It does not mean you are not enough. It simply means their feelings have changed, and that is something beyond your control. Too many people blame themselves when a relationship starts to fall apart. They believe that if they were just more attractive, more interesting, more exciting, or more successful, their partner would still love them the same way. But love does not work like that. A person's feelings for you are not based on a checklist of qualities. They are based on emotional connection, shared experiences, and compatibility. By recognizing the signs early, you give yourself the chance to take control of your own happiness. You can choose to have an honest conversation with your partner and express your concerns. You can ask them if something has changed, if there is something that needs to be addressed, or if they are struggling with feelings they have been afraid to express. This type of open dialogue can sometimes bring clarity and even save a relationship if both people are willing to work through the changes together. However, if you recognize the signs and realize that your partner is emotionally checked out, it also gives you the power to walk away with dignity. Instead of waiting for them to officially break things off, instead of begging for their attention or sacrificing your own self-worth just to keep them around, you can make the choice to let go. And that is one of the most empowering things you can do. Choosing yourself instead of waiting for someone to choose you. It is important to remember that love should not make you feel unwanted. It should not leave you questioning your value or feeling like you are in a constant state of uncertainty. A healthy relationship is built on mutual effort, respect, and emotional connection. When those things start to fade, and when someone consistently shows you through their actions that they are no longer invested, it is not your job to convince them to stay. It is your job to recognize the truth, accept it, and decide what is best for you moving forward. Recognizing the early signs of fading love also saves you from unnecessary emotional suffering. Many people stay in relationships long after they have already ended emotionally, simply because they are afraid of being alone or because they believe they can fix things if they just try hard enough. But staying in a relationship where love has already faded is one of the most painful things a person can experience. It is like holding on to something that is slipping through your fingers no matter how tightly you try to grip it. When you see the signs, when you feel the shift, and when you acknowledge that things are not the same, you have the opportunity to decide how you want to move forward. Do you want to have a conversation and try to work through the issues together? Or do you want to accept that this chapter is closing and give yourself the freedom to find the love and respect you truly deserve? The choice is always yours. At the end of the day, love should feel secure. It should feel like a place where you are wanted, valued, and appreciated. If someone is losing their love for you, it is not a reflection of your worth. It is simply a sign that their heart has changed. And the sooner you recognize it, the sooner you can protect your own heart and move forward with strength and confidence. When you realize that someone is losing their love for you, the most important question becomes, what do you do next? Too often people react emotionally, driven by fear, sadness, or desperation. They beg for attention, try to remind their partner of how things used to be, or even change themselves in an attempt to rekindle the fading love. But these actions rarely bring back what has already started to slip away. Instead, they create a dynamic where one person is chasing while the other continues to withdraw. This imbalance can lead to even more pain, leaving the person who is still in love feeling rejected, unworthy, and powerless. However, understanding how to handle this situation the right way can allow you to regain your strength, preserve your dignity, and make decisions that are best for your well-being. The first and most important step is to accept reality. This does not mean immediately walking away, nor does it mean shutting down emotionally. It simply means allowing yourself to see things for what they are. Denial is one of the biggest reasons people stay stuck in unhealthy relationships. They convince themselves that things will get better, that their partner is just going through a phase, or that love will somehow find its way back if they just hold on a little longer. But love that is fading cannot be revived by force. Holding on to someone who is letting go only prolongs the pain. The sooner you accept the truth, the sooner you can decide what is best for you. Once you acknowledge what is happening, the next step is to communicate. Many relationships fall apart not because love simply disappears, but because issues go unspoken for too long. If you notice that your partner is emotionally withdrawing, avoiding intimacy, or making less effort, it is essential to have an open and honest conversation. Instead of making accusations or acting from a place of fear, approach them with calmness and clarity. Express what you have noticed and how it makes you feel. Ask them if something has changed, and give them the space to be honest. Some people might not even realize how much they have been pulling away until they are confronted with it. Others may have been avoiding the conversation out of guilt or fear of hurting you. Either way, having this discussion gives both of you a chance to address what is happening rather than letting the distance grow silently. However, it is important to understand that communication alone will not always change the situation. If your partner expresses that they are unsure about their feelings, or if they are unable to provide reassurance, you must be willing to accept that they may no longer be as invested in the relationship as you are. This is where many people struggle. They hear words like, "I just need time," or "I'm confused about my feelings," and they hold on to hope. They believe that if they give their partner space, they will eventually come back. While this is sometimes true, in many cases, "I need time" is simply a softer way of saying, "I don't love you the same way anymore, but I don't know how to say it." You must be prepared for the possibility that no matter what you do, their feelings may not return. If you realize that your partner is no longer emotionally invested, the next step is to decide whether the relationship is still serving you. This is where self-respect and self-worth become crucial. Love is not just about wanting someone, it is about being wanted in return. If you find yourself in a position where you are the only one fighting for the relationship, you need to ask yourself if that is something you are willing to accept. Staying in a one-sided relationship will only drain you emotionally and damage your self-esteem. Instead of trying to force someone to love you the way they once did, it may be time to let go and create space for a love that is mutual, fulfilling, and real. Letting go is not easy, especially when your heart is still attached. But walking away from someone who no longer values you is one of the most powerful things you can do. It is a statement that says, I deserve more than half-hearted love. I deserve someone who is as sure about me as I am about them. And while it may hurt in the moment, choosing yourself will always lead to greater happiness in the long run. Another crucial part of handling this situation is focusing on yourself. When someone pulls away from us, it is easy to fall into a mindset of self-blame. You might wonder if you weren't attractive enough, exciting enough, or interesting enough. But love does not fade because of a single flaw or mistake. It fades because feelings shift, circumstances change, and sometimes people simply grow apart. Instead of drowning in self-doubt, shift your focus inward. Reconnect with the things that bring you joy. Surround yourself with people who appreciate you, and remind yourself of your own worth. The loss of one person's love does not define you. It is also important to resist the urge to chase. When someone starts losing feelings, your instinct might be to try harder, to text more, to show up unexpectedly, to remind them of how much you love them. But chasing someone who is pulling away will only push them further. Instead, match their energy. If they are distant, give them space. If they stop putting in effort, stop overextending yourself. This is not about playing games. It is about valuing yourself enough not to beg for love. When you step back, you give them the opportunity to either realize what they are losing and make the effort to fix it, or to confirm that they were never fully invested to begin with. Either way, you gain clarity and maintain your self-respect. Finally, remember that moving on is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. Sometimes we hold on to people because we are afraid of the unknown. We fear being alone, starting over, or never finding love again. But staying in a relationship where you are no longer valued is far lonelier than being single. Walking away opens the door for new experiences, new growth, and eventually a new love that is built on certainty rather than hesitation. In the end, when someone loses their love for you, the most important thing you can do is love yourself enough to recognize it, address it, and if necessary, walk away with dignity. Love should never make you feel like you have to fight for someone's attention or convince them to care. Real love is given freely, fully, and without hesitation. And if that is not what you are receiving, then the best thing you can do is let go and make room for the love that truly deserves you.